Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, If you tell your employees that people who want more money should work somewhere else, don't be surprised when they quit. About 4 years ago I worked for a company that provided behavior services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We did individual counseling, parent trainings, data analysis, etc. Think highly specialized mental care and support in home and community settings. Anyway, after 2 years of working there and getting another certification, I asked my boss for a raise. I was a newly divorced and raising 3 kids, so I really needed the money. I had been working 10+ hours a week of overtime to stay afloat. My boss also knew about my situation. My evaluations were great and I had been told I would be moved up to supervisor soon, so my boss had to have known this conversation was coming. This man looked me dead in my eyes and said that he knew I wanted to make more money and my reviews were great, but he wanted to make sure I was loyal to the company mission. He told me he can tell when people are just looking to make more money. And we tell those people to go work somewhere else. He wanted to make sure that the new supervisor would put the company mission and families they support first. He told me that he couldn't offer me a raise at that time, but he would get back to me. No date was set for a follow-up meeting or anything. I started applying for new jobs that day. Within 2 weeks I had found a new position making double the salary for only 40 hours of work a week. As it turns out, I was being severely underpaid. Shocker, I know. The day I handed in my notice, my boss and the owner were in a meeting about my new position within the organization. Of course, no one said anything to me about it beforehand. They sent me an offer, which I politely declined because it sucked. Then they tried to hire me on as a contractor at a rate that was at least 25% lower than every other contractor rate in the city for my position, so I turned that down too. My boss and the owner were both shocked that I rejected their offers, especially since they were willing to offer me so many perks. They were giving me the opportunity to become a leader in a great company, and believed I was a great clinician who would do so many great things within their organization, etc. I reminded my boss that he is the one who told me to go work somewhere else, and then I stopped responding to their messages. Next one is titled, Have to clear out our vacation time? Good luck keeping the place open with no employees. I am a social worker with a moderate-sized nonprofit compared to the city we are in. We serve individuals with disabilities in a variety, including on-site and in the community. About 1.5 years ago, our exec director retired after 15-ish years. They were an awesome person, but due to age and some health problems, had kind of checked out or running the organization. The new director came from a much larger for-profit organization, and seemed to feel that money is king, and the only way to be respected is to be feared. She was a monster in every sense of the word. Now, being a nonprofit, our pay isn't fantastic, and the benefits aren't stellar, but the one thing they were good at was the vacation rollover. We were allowed to keep 200 hours of rollover, and while it took some time to build up, those of us that had been there a while tried keeping our hours somewhere around there. This is our vacation and sick time put together. New director decides that our entire vacation policy is too generous, and cuts our accrual rate. I personally lost almost 2 full weeks a year. And the major kicker, tells us we can only keep 80 hours of rollover. Again, I get it, COVID hit us hard. Everyone has to be expected to make some cuts somewhere. But see, the problem is, she told everyone this the first week of October, and we had to be down to 80 by January 1st. Anything over 80 just goes away. We tried negotiating, we tried offering alternatives, we asked for exemptions by a few months. She would absolutely not hear it, and finally said the next person who asked about our PTO policy would be walked out of the building. So, my coworkers and I came up with a plan. Enter the compliance. I will admit, this only worked because the rest of our administration team felt the director was horrible, and also lost their PTO time too. We all put in for vacation at the same time. Even those that really didn't need to because they were closer to 80 hours anyway. We literally had 85% of our staff off for weeks at a time. We worked it out amongst ourselves that we had just enough staff to ensure work was done to keep us compliant with the state, but anything above and beyond that ground to a halt. I also need to clarify that we are not an emergency service, so the clients we serve did not lose our non-essential supports. Well, our board meeting comes around in December, and the new director has to try and explain why there was such a drastic drop in revenue over the last month and a half. Apparently she didn't give a good enough answer, because the board started talking to the employees and SR management for the first time since the new director came on. Let me tell you, we did not hold back. After hearing the horror stories of some of the other stuff she was doing, the board promptly decided that having her in charge was, according to the all-staff email that got sent out, not going to lead us in a direction that would lead to long-term success and stability for our organization, and kicked her butt to the curb. I am happy to say they found a new director who has already gone above and beyond what we could have hoped for, and our staff and most importantly our clients are hopefully on the path to many years of success. Next one is titled, Always Open the Windows. A bit of backstory first. I work as the head maintenance person in a school in my city, in Canada, and to say I have my hands full is an understatement. The school is 99 years old, turning 100 in July. It has been updated over the year, but the building is made out of brick and I'm constantly trying to adjust the hydronic heating system throughout the day as the building soaks up heat and keeps it. As an attempt to mitigate the heat, I've found that opening all the windows in the school first thing in the morning before the staff comes in, and they can open or close the windows as they wish. Now, where I am our weather is pretty weird, and yesterday it was cold, as in it had been 30°C, Monday and Tuesday, and yesterday it was sitting at 4°C with a wind chill that brought it to 0°. So considering the temperature inside the school was sitting at 10°C, I opted to not open windows that morning and performed my morning routine. Well, apparently the principal, my supervisor for the building, felt I had made the wrong decision and ripped me a new one, telling me to always open the windows from now on. Cue malicious compliance. Before leaving I confirmed that he indeed wanted them open regardless of the outside temperature, including the next day, Friday, today, and a day with no students. He said, yes. And if any staff had issues I was to get them to complain to him, and motioned me to leave his office. So today I got up and checked the weather before going into work. It said it was currently 1°C and 4°C with the wind. On top of that we got snow. The entire trip to work I have this evil grin on my face, and as soon as I get in I rush to open every window in the school, even the vents for the bathrooms, and I continued with my morning routine, pleased with what I did. Now since there weren't any classes that day, the majority of staff didn't even show up till 10:30, 3 hours since I had opened the windows, and it was very cold inside the school, and all of a sudden I get a bunch of texts from staff about their cold rooms. I proceed to tell every single one of them what the principal had said, and shortly after I'm called to his office. As soon as I open the door I can tell that he is very angry and very cold and demands to know why I opened all the windows this morning. All I get to say is, well, yesterday you said, and he calmly says, wait. Now I'm known for being a smart ass at work, and between being maliciously compliant and getting petty revenge on people, I've apparently built up a name for myself within the entirety of all 50 schools in my school board. My union reps love me. He now realizes that he's ducked up and starts laughing about it. He admits he screwed up his wording and he's been having a rough couple of days, and apparently this made his week, and says how he is now going to leave it to me to decide when the windows should be opened. We both had a very good laugh, and he ended up buying the staff lunch. After the teachers heard what happened they all bugged him a bit, but it was all in fun. Next one is titled, Airline Company Policy vs. Mathematician. I met my girlfriend, now wife, at a student exchange in Russia before the pandemic, and trusting in the availability of flights we gave it a chance. So when the pandemic hit and borders were closed, we couldn't see each other for about half a year due to visa and travel restrictions. Naturally, we were really desperate, and when Germany finally allowed visa for couples again, we jumped on the opportunity, booked flights immediately, and went on planning our 3 months together. The day before her flight was due, I checked her times again to be double sure, only to find out the flight has been cancelled by the airline and the platform I booked through didn't inform me. So I called the airline, while also checking other possible flights online. Luckily, there was one via Zurich just some hours later, so after some arguing about the finer points of European law, the airline accepted responsibility even though we had booked through a different platform and rebooked her on this flight. Later that day, my girlfriend calls me crying and explains that she had been rejected by the airline as Switzerland doesn't accept transit passengers from outside Europe, and she is essentially trapped in Moscow now with no way to either come to me or get back home. She is from a different city in Russia. So same thing again, I call the airline. While the law is pretty clear about this, call center agents are trained to use all kinds of tricks for you to either accept a refund or accept other bad conditions. The agent offered either a refund or a flight a week later, as there are no flights available. Neither was satisfactory. A quick internet search yielded several other possible flights from Moscow the next day. It was getting late and I had spent the better part of my day in a queue, arguing with airline representatives over the law, getting hung up upon and comforting my girlfriend. Getting desperate myself, I asked what their policies on accepted flights were in order to get her here. They had to originate from the same airport and be with the same alliance. And sure enough, the next acceptable flight was in a week, while there were still multiple flights available from other airports and alliances. Me. So you are saying that as long as she starts at the same airport and flies with your alliance, all flights are fine? Airline rep. Yes, that is correct. Me. And she has to start from Moscow Domodedowo, you can't fly her from Moscow Vnukovo? There is one flight available with your alliance. Airline rep. No, she has to start from the same airport. Me. She can take a taxi and be there in an hour. Airline rep. Sorry sir, company policy, Q Malicious Compliance. Me. There is a flight from Domodedowo to St. Petersburg in an hour. If she takes that and flies back to Moscow Vnukovo 2 hours later, that would essentially be a very expensive taxi ride, but within company policy, right? I could hear the gears turn over the phone. Defeated and at the end of his script, the representative finally handed me over to his manager, who then approved her to just take a taxi. I picked up my very tired and shaken girlfriend at the airport the next day, and we spent a lovely 3 months together. And sometimes we remember that transitivity is not just a mathematical concept. Last one is titled, Have Fun Running a Restaurant with No Recipes. So this story belongs to my father, but it's pretty fresh and I thought I would share it here as it fits perfectly. There is a pretty long explanation before though. If any Germans read this and find mistakes, I personally don't know many details about German law and I'm repeating what my father told me. Among a few other things, my father is a chef. It's something he went to a proper school for and worked at for the past few years. Recently, pre all this COVID stuff, he worked at a Greek restaurant in Germany as the chef with a few kitchen helpers, which basically means he cooked everything while the helpers did odd jobs like washing dishes, peeling veggies, washing meat, etc. Due to COVID, all restaurants in Germany were forced to close for an indefinite amount of time, but the government promised to pay people an aid calculated based on your monthly pay. Hence how my father found out his boss has been scamming him on his contract. Apparently in Germany, the employer side can do everything related to the contract side on their own as long as you provide them with the proper documents, without you actually seeing the contract yourself. They just set everything up, you can start working and they can provide you with the contract later to sign it, which most people do, but my father is sadly too trusting and never asked for it. Turned out he was given a part-time contract with the rest of the pay being added as a bonus under the table, while still working full-time hours plus often overtime. This resulted in his COVID aid being significantly smaller, not nearly enough to survive for a month, and due to various reasons, he didn't have much spending money. When he learned of this, he immediately decided to contact and confront his employer, and he was basically told to either suck it up or quit, and that he is very much welcome to report them, not that it will matter anyway. So this is what my father did. Quit and went out of his way to come to Germany and report it. And oh boy did it matter. First fallout. My father was the only person to know all the recipes for the dishes they sold. Most of them used his own secret ingredients and people loved them. Since he started working there, the restaurant boomed in terms of popularity. He, however, never wrote those recipes down, and while the owner might have been Greek, he didn't actually know any proper recipes. He just knew how food ought to taste. Some German regions are about to open their restaurants, and this place, smack in the middle of a popular resort area, doesn't have a single dish they know how to prepare, and already a pretty long list of reservations waiting. Second fallout. My father did report them, and Germans take their labor laws very seriously. The restaurant was investigated and they were given numerous fines, in the tens of thousands of euros range, paid to the state for this, while they were also forced to pay my father all his due pay, because legally he worked full-time hours, proven by cameras and testimony of people in the area, as the owner tried to lie about his work hours, and officially was only paid part-time. This put the restaurant deep into the red, with a very high chance of having to close up and sell their place to pay off everything. And initially all my father wanted, was for his employer to just cover the other part of the government aid that he lost because of his contract. Thanks for listening.